The first thing she noticed wasn't his clothes. It was the way he hesitated. In a cafe where every chair was claimed and every table buzzed with conversation, hesitation stood out. It didn't belong among the confident laughter, the tapping laptops, the baristas calling out names with practiced cheer. But there he was, standing just inside the door, scanning the room like someone who wasn't sure he had the right to be there. Emma Blake stirred her coffee absent-mindedly, her eyes lifting just long enough to catch his uncertainty. He looked ordinary. Faded hoodie, worn jeans, a baseball cap pulled low, shadowing his face. But there was something else, too. Something harder to name. Not fear exactly. Not even shyness. It was exhaustion. The kind that settled into your bones and stayed there. She glanced around. Every table was full. Even hers, meant for two, held only her laptop, her notebook, and the quiet space she'd grown used to occupying alone. He shifted his weight, clearly debating whether to leave. And before she could talk herself out of it, Emma raised her hand slightly. "You can sit here," she said. He looked up, startled, like he hadn't expected anyone to notice him at all. For a moment, he didn't move. Then cautiously, he stepped closer. "Are you sure?" She smiled, pushing her notebook aside. "It's either that or you stand awkwardly by the door until someone feels guilty enough to move." A faint flicker of amusement crossed his face. "That obvious?" Painfully, he let out a quiet breath, almost a laugh, and slid into the chair across from her. "Thank you." "Emma," she said, extending her hand. He hesitated only a second before shaking it. "Daniel." His grip was warm, steady, but there was that same fatigue in it, like he'd been carrying something heavy for a long time. They sat in silence at first, the noise of the cafe filling the space between them. Emma returned to her laptop, but she found herself distracted, aware of him in a way she couldn't quite explain. He didn't check his phone, didn't fidget, didn't try to make small talk just to fill the quiet. He simply sat there, hands loosely clasped, eyes occasionally drifting, toward the window as if he were watching, something far beyond the street outside. "You okay?" she asked finally. The question slipped out before she could stop it. He blinked, as if pulled back from somewhere distant. "Yeah, I just needed to sit for a minute." Emma studied him. "Long day?" A pause. Then a small nod. "Something like that." She didn't push. Life had taught her that people carried stories they weren't always ready to share. Instead, she reached for her coffee, took a sip and said lightly, "Well, you picked the right place. Their coffee is strong enough to bring the dead back." He smiled at that, really smiled this time. And it changed him. Softened the edges of whatever he'd been holding inside. "I'll keep that in mind." A barista called out an order, and Daniel stood. "Can I get you anything?" "As a thank you." Emma shook her head. "I'm good." "Please," he insisted gently. "It feels wrong just taking your seat." She considered for a moment, then relented. "Fine, another latte." "Got it." As he walked away, Emma watched him without meaning to. There was something in the way he moved, deliberate, grounded, that didn't quite match the worn-out clothes. Like someone used to carrying responsibility, not just weight. When he returned, he set her drink down carefully, as if it mattered. "Here you go." "Thanks." They fell into conversation more easily after that. At first, it was simple things, coffee preferences, the chaos of crowded cafes, the strange habits of strangers. But slowly, almost without noticing, it deepened. Emma told him about her work, freelance writing that paid, the bills but rarely fulfilled her, about the rent that kept climbing, about the quiet ache of feeling like she was always one step behind where she wanted to be. "I thought I'd have it figured out by now," she admitted, tracing the rim of her cup. "You know? A real career, stability, maybe even, I don't know, something that feels like it matters." Daniel listened without interrupting, his attention steady and genuine. "That feeling doesn't really go away," he said softly. "Even when things look put together on the outside." She tilted her head. "You sound like you're speaking from experience." A faint smile. "Maybe. And what about you?" she asked. "What do you do?" He hesitated. For a moment, Emma thought he might deflect the question. But then he said, "I run a business." She raised an eyebrow, glancing at his hoodie. "That must be one very casual office." He chuckled. "You'd be surprised. There was something in his tone, something understated, that made her pause. But before she could ask more, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and for the first time, his composure shifted. Not panic, but urgency. "I'm sorry," he said, standing quickly. "I have to take this." "Of course." He stepped outside, pressing the phone to his ear, his voice low and controlled. Emma couldn't hear the words, but she could see the tension in his posture, the way his free hand clenched slightly at his side. Minutes passed. When he returned, something had changed. Not in a dramatic way, not visibly at least, but the air around him felt different, focused, sharp. "I have to go," he said. "I'm really sorry." Emma nodded, though she felt an unexpected flicker of disappointment. "It's okay." He reached into his pocket, pulled out a card, and placed it on the table. "If you ever need anything," he said, meeting her eyes, "call me." She laughed lightly. "That sounds mysterious." "Maybe it is." And then, just like that, he was gone. Emma stared at the card for a moment, then picked it up and froze. The name was the same. Daniel Carter. But beneath it, CEO, Carter Holdings. Her breath caught. Carter Holdings wasn't just any company. It was everywhere: real estate, tech investments, philanthropic foundations. She'd written about them once for an article. Their CEO was known for being fiercely private and incredibly successful. A millionaire. Maybe more. Emma looked toward the door, but he was already gone. She sat back slowly, the weight of realization settling in. He hadn't lied. He'd just left out everything. For a moment, she felt something close to embarrassment. Had she complained too much? Been too open? Too real? But then she remembered the way he'd listened. Not like someone above her, not like someone judging, just like a person. Weeks passed. Emma didn't call. Not because she wasn't curious, but because something about that moment felt complete, untouched by expectation. Until one afternoon, her landlord knocked on her door. "You've got 30 days, he said bluntly. "Building's being sold." Her stomach dropped. 30? That's not enough time. Not my problem. The door closed, leaving silence in its wake. That night, Emma sat at her kitchen table, the business card in front of her. She stared at it for a long time. Then finally, she picked up her phone. The call connected almost immediately. "Emma." She blinked. "You saved my number?" A soft chuckle. "I was hoping you'd call." Her chest tightened unexpectedly. "I wouldn't have," she admitted. "But I need help." "Tell me." And so she did. Not just about the apartment, but about everything. The uncertainty, the fear, the feeling of being stuck in a life that didn't seem to move forward, no matter how hard she tried. He listened, just like before. When she finished, there was a brief silence. Then he said, "Come by tomorrow." He gave her an address. Emma expected an office. What she found was something else entirely. A building filled with people, families, children, individuals sitting with counselors, others working at computers. A foundation, his foundation. Daniel met her at the entrance, dressed simply again, but this time, there was no mistaking the authority in his presence. "This is what I actually do," he said. She looked around, taking it all in. "You help people." He nodded. "I try." They walked through the space together, and Emma saw the way people greeted him, not with fear or formality, but with warmth, gratitude, trust. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked quietly. He glanced at her. "Because I didn't want you to see me as that." "As what?" "A number, a title, something distant." She stopped walking. "I didn't." "I know," he said softly. "That's why I didn't." There was a pause. Then he added, "I'm also a single dad." Emma blinked. "You are?" He nodded, a small smile forming. "She's 5. Keeps me grounded. Reminds me what matters." Something in her chest shifted. "All of this," she said, gesturing around them. "You built it." "With help," he corrected. "But yes." He turned to her then, his expression thoughtful. "You said you wanted to do something that matters." Emma hesitated. "Yeah. Stay," he said. "Work here. Write for us. Tell their stories." Her breath caught. "You'd offer me that?" "I'm not offering you charity," he said gently. "I'm offering you a chance. The same one you gave me." She frowned slightly. I gave you a chair. He smiled. You gave me something I hadn't had in a long time. What? A moment where I wasn't the CEO or the provider, or the one everyone depends on. His voice softened. I was just a man who needed somewhere to sit, and you didn't hesitate. Emma felt her eyes sting. It was nothing, she whispered. It wasn't, he said. Not to me. For a long moment, they just stood there. Then Emma nodded. Okay, she said. I'll stay. And as they walked back inside, surrounded by the quiet hum of people helping people, Emma realized something she hadn't understood before. Kindness doesn't announce itself. It doesn't arrive with recognition or reward. Sometimes it looks like a single empty chair in a crowded cafe, and the simple decision to share it